Hey everyone, welcome to Customizing the Layout Part 2, just working with MainStage, and really the theme for today is creating layouts for the gear that you have. I know this Part 2 has been a little bit of a long time coming. I thank you for your patience if you've been waiting for a little while. And to be honest, one of the reasons I've kind of delayed a bit is there are so many great MainStage resources out there. I didn't really feel the need to saturate the market with my own kind of version of it. But I think what I found now is that even though there's so many of those pre-built template options that are really awesome out there, I found and you might be the same, that if you've gotten to the point where you're watching this video, you're probably bored with those canned templates that you found. There's some really great ones, whether you use the built ones or purchased, but you're seeking some more flexibility with your own setup. I found that I've been using MainStage for a few years, and I've realized that my playing style and my needs have changed and developed quite a bit over time. And that's kind of where I am right now, where the app itself is the best I've ever purchased, helped me really develop as a church musician, and in so many ways just as a producer and everything else that I do. But we got to this point where I need something more than just a canned template. I needed to be able to kind of incorporate my philosophy live. And so you're probably in that same situation. You have your gear, you need to do two things. You need to, number one, visually represent the different parts of what you want to control on the screen. And number two, customize the mappings to fit your needs live. If you're new to MainStage and making your own layouts, I'd highly encourage you to just take a break right now, pause this video, go back to part one, get the terminology and muscle memory down, as I'll make some assumptions about your familiarity with MainStage. And so this part two, I expect you'll have a little bit of muscle memory already in place with working with MainStage. And so here's where I've landed. I found that for me, developing my ideal setup incorporates two MIDI keyboards, two sets of faders knobs, and one grid of pads. My bottom 88 keys are my main stage piano sounds, and then my top layer are for all of the different synth, pad, effects, organ type of stuff. And then I use a grid of pads that will do the drone. And really my philosophy, and I got to give kudos here to Ian McIntosh from Jesus Culture, I have this philosophy of a patchless setup. I don't want to have to scroll through endless patches and song-specific things and have to mix and match different presets to find my sounds. I want to be able to take my core set of sounds that I have right here and be able to mix and match and affect things live in the moment for any musical situation. And then I'll only save presets for tempo-based things like with arpeggios or delays or some other big picture things. And so here's the final template that I've been using for nearly over a year now with excellent results and performance. And so this video, I want to break this down and hopefully give you some layout and programming tricks along the way. So section one of this video is just about how to design this layout. Kind of building your different pieces based on the hardware that you have. And so like I said, I have two keyboards. I have a need for the faders and buttons to go across. I want to be able to monitor things as we go. I got a second keyboard with similar needs, and then I have a grid of pads that I want to work with. And so what you'll see here is what I ended up putting together and what I built here. And so here's a couple tricks that I found that will kind of help us out along the way. So as I've said before, I think the best way to start with MainStage and getting your own layout going is just to pick from the new File, New menu. Just pick from our keyboard template this minimalist section here. Because what this allows you to do is it just allows you to easily get rid of the stuff that you don't care about and start from a blank slate. And so I'm going to jump right over to Layout. I'm going to select everything here, and then I'm just going to hit Delete. And then I have a completely blank slate to get at here. And what we're going to do first is we're going to start by just simply using this background option to kind of map out the different sections that we want to work with. So when we throw a background in there, it's kind of hard to see at first, so I would say go ahead and throw a color on it just so that something will pop out a little bit more and you can kind of visually see what you're looking to do. And if you've ever done any type of design before, you're basically going to wireframe the layout that you want in your setup here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of eyeball that first grid that I want to use here. And what we're going to become friends with, if you're not already, is Command D. Because what Command D does is it duplicates the object that you have selected. And so now I have two backgrounds like that, and I'm going to Command D again, and Command D again, and now I have the basics of my four main patches that I'm going to use in my sounds. If I select all these guys just with our drag selection, I can align these guys to the top so they're all nice and even. I can distribute the spacing horizontally so it's all nice and even. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball and see if that's going to be good for me here. And so what I'm looking for here is I want to be able to have my basically 8 core patch sounds available to me. And I want these grids to be big enough to fit the different knobs and faders for each of those patch sections. And so if we take a peek again at the layout I have here, you can see all the different controls that I want to have available. And that's kind of what I'm setting up now, is I want my grid to be ready to go so I can use it quickly and easily. And so I won't recreate the entire template for you. I'm going to give it to you as a download later on. I just want to get the concepts down here. And so I have this 4 group here. I'm going to Command D, duplicate. And then the other thing that happens is if you start dragging, notice that it really kind of jumps your selection sometimes, which can be super annoying. So I'm just going to undo a little bit. And one of the other tricks I found is after you select things and do Command D, just use your arrow keys. That'll help you nudge things really specifically, so you not only will line things up nicely, you don't have to worry about cleaning up wherever your mouse is and that whole selection. So you make that grid here. And then I'm just going to duplicate again, and I want to give myself the basic layout area for where my pads are going to go as well. And so this is kind of my top half that I'm going to work on, my top 61 key keyboard, my bottom 88 key, and then my drum pads over there. And then naturally I'm going to want to go to group controls. I'm going to want to pull in a keyboard. I'm going to want to pull in my 61 note. Kind of personal preference for how you want to lay those out later. You should have plenty of room in this bottom section to kind of work with that. I'm not going to spend much time on that today. I just want to talk about building this template grid together. And so the next thing I'd do is I'd grab a vertical fader and I'd start getting my mixer setup going. So I'm just going to shrink this down and move this into place. Again, if you're having trouble finding the exact placement on how to move things, use those arrow keys to help you out. And then wait for that little size handle to come into play when you're adjusting your parameters and everything here. So I'm just going to eyeball that, and now I'm going to start building my template for all the faders and buttons. And so Command D to duplicate, arrow keys to shift around, right? And then I'm going to bring in a couple buttons. Now I'm basing this off of my the Korg Nano Control. It's a very popular mixer. You've probably seen it in a lot of different places. I'm going to say no label on this, so it's just a button. But again, whatever hardware you have, whatever buttons you need, you can build your layout specifically for what you own. So this is just a frame of reference. So again, arrow keys, duplicate button. Now we're really getting the hang of this here. I'm going to select these guys, and just to be a little more specific, I'm going to distribute the spacing vertically, nice and even, duplicate this, and then slide this over. So it's already looking pretty good, right? I got a double mixer for my buttons here. And again, with these arrow key adjustments, see how it jumps pretty big there? If I want to shrink that a little bit, if you hold down Shift and then use the arrow keys, it nudges it ever so slightly. So it's a great way to line things up the way you want them to go. Okay, the next thing I used on these, and this is stolen straight from Sunday Sounds, their template here. I love the horizontal volume level meter, just as a great visual to see how your mix is playing out live. So I'll bring that down where it needs to go. All right. And then I like how everything's lined up. I just going to need a little bit extra room on top, so I'm going to bring these guys over Careful how you select things. Right? And then just nudge them just enough to get down there. Right? And then I just need to bring in some text. We're going to call this, we'll just call it patch. Like that. And obviously you can change the font however you see fit. Put that right over here. And then the other things that I did on these guys is I used a little knob because I like to have the live ability to tweak both my reverb and delay whenever I see fit. So I get a knob there. And again, just a friendly reminder here is as we're building this template, what we're really doing here is we're not mapping anything at this point. I'm just literally setting up the blocks visually that I want to be able to use and control, so that at any time when I'm ready to actually map my controller, it's ready to go no matter what my controller is. So I gotta make these a little bit smaller just for that visual. Get rid of this guy since I made this size change. Duplicate that and then slide this guy right over here. And you can spend a lot of time with the sizing and the things. You know, I think in my actual template, the grid was a little bit bigger, but you get the idea so far as we're kind of building this out here. And so then I would grab, I'll just duplicate this text. I'll make it even smaller and do something like reverb. And then if you change the size of the font, just to shrink that down, right, so it fits nicely in there. And arrow keys to nudge, and duplicate to bring over to where I need it to go. And this one's going to be the delay. Right, and so what I'm finishing setting up here is I'm just finishing setting up my template for the mixer section here. Again, take as much time as you need to really get it perfect, because what you're going to do at the end of this is to grab all of these guys here. And I have everything selected, including the background. But using our duplicate friend, if I actually just unselect the background by shift-clicking it, I can now duplicate this entire patch section and then just use my arrow keys to move this over. And so now I have the exact same layout. I can nudge them, shift arrow as much as I need, duplicate again, and then get these guys over at this point. Duplicate again, get these guys over. And so now I have the layout that I'm really going for this grid. I can duplicate it again at top, get rid of the things that I don't care about. One of the things I did in my template was change those colors to match just visually. I have a little bit of a pattern there, and then we're ready to go. And for the drum pad section here, you'll notice that what I did here, my controller had 16 pads, so I want a 16 pad grid, but I wanted some space for labeling things underneath, because what I did for the labeling, I use the grid pad for drone sounds. And so as I bring in a pad, it has the label in there for me. It kind of has that grouped control here, where I can have it pre-map to things here, but that it's pre-mapping to like MIDI and note information. I don't want to do that. And so I ended up just more manually building this in here. So when you bring over a drum pad, just do nothing for the grid, or the label rather, and then you just are kind of building your grid as you go. And so I just have two elements here. One is the pad itself, of course. And here's where if I duplicate 4 of them, I can then select all 4. I can make sure they're aligned nicely. I can make sure they're spaced really nicely. There we go. And then I will duplicate those again. And I'm just giving myself enough room so I can do some text underneath them here. Right? And so maybe I make this a little larger, and then I can adjust things from there. And so again, it's all about layout building. I'm just simply designing I'm going to cheat and grab some text from here, duplicate again, slide this over, right? And then this is going to be, I did circle of fifths, so my C, then my G. I could select both of them and duplicate. Makes that a little bit easier. And so then I can just change this to D, change this to A, and then you get the hang of it, right? Where I'm just going to continue making these labels, organize as much as I need to, and again get rid of the frames just so that the text just shows up as it stands on its own, right? And so again, you just kind of duplicate, copy, and build. I'm not doing any controls for anything. I'm just looking to get my layout done. So keep repeating until you have all your controls just laid out on the screen. Okay, so part 2 here is looking at our concert level settings. I've already kind of built my layout for all the labels and the text things that I need. I have my buttons and faders ready to go. I have all my layout elements here. So this would be the point where you'd go through and assign each of the buttons and each of the faders and knobs and anything you would need to your actual MIDI controllers. Again, that's all stuff you should know from part 1 and your use in MainStage, so I won't spend time on that. But let's talk a little bit about how I set up this template and the concert level settings here, because there's basically two concepts here. I mentioned I try to go with a patchless setup as much as possible. I don't want endless things scrolling through or song-specific things that I have to really map all together. I want my main template that has all the functionality and features that I care about. And then this is what I'm going to live off of live. I can mix my faders whenever I need to on both my controllers, and I can just play what I need to play when I want to play it. That being said, some of these effects I do want at the concert level, so as I duplicate this and as I work with things, I want them to carry through no matter what patch I end up doing. And so the couple things that I would make sure you do on the concert level, and this is how I've approached it here, is I have basically 4 different things that I set up at the concert level. Number 1, as you might expect, is I have my drone pad. There's a great resource online that shows you how to use the scripter plugin. Somebody wrote this Myers Audio drone script. I'll try to post a link to this as well, and I'll maybe make a separate video on how this is all set up. But it basically is some JavaScript that plays a drone pad with a bunch of different options in there. And so I have my channel strip for my pad drone sound. I customized that with my EX2 warm pad with some tweaks in there, and I have it just affected in there. And so as I click a pad in my template, it chooses the key, and then I just hit the pad button to enable it and turn it on. So drone pad, have at the concert level. The next 3 things that I have is a shimmer, a delay, and a reverb effect. I want those to be consistent and throughout my entire project. So I built those as buses, as aux channels on my main concert setup, so that whenever I am on my template here and on the patch level, these reverbs, these delays, this shimmer button is all referring to that main concert template. And that has been my approach, that I think it works well, not only for consistent tone throughout everything, but then if I ever didn't like what I did for a shimmer effect, I just need to change it in one place, and then it affects my entire concert from there. So that'd be my recommendation. Have your drones at concert level, and then have your main effects that you can apply to all your stuff at the concert level as well. And then section 3 is really a personal preference in terms of patch setup. So with this template, as I mentioned, I can do whatever I want to do at any time with my core 8 sounds here. So I'm blending with faders, I'm using tone controls to control things, I'm adding reverb, delay, shimmer effects, whatever else I'm doing for these settings here. When I do create patches now, as you can see, they're really general. it says, okay, piano and pad. So that means I have piano and pad on my main stage piano, and then at the top I'm just doing a pad with a little synth up there. If I'm doing piano and fast gospel, I have a heavy attack or a quick attack on the top layer, mix in some organ, change some tone things, and then I just have the piano sound down here. Of course, if I go to Rhodes, it has that. So in a pinch, if I need to click on these, I can use those as a quick template if I don't want to mix live. And so all I've done for these is I just take my main template patch that has all the mappings and all the channel controls for it, and I'm just simply duplicating that. Our friend Command D again, right? So if I duplicate that, I can then name it. Let's call it Rhodes plus pad. I'll move that up here, and then I will come in here and set these saved values. So my saved value for this is going to be nothing. Maybe I just need to blend this a little bit. Pad is going to be just about there. And then my strings are going to be all the way off, right? And so I'm controlling what that template sounds like just by kind of manually mixing it here and saving these different saved values. Same is true if I wanted to do the shimmer effect on that. I can enable that so that becomes part of the saved parameter. The other note about this too is that it's probably one of these hidden things, but you can reverse engineer this with not only this template but others you may have purchased. Keep in mind that any button or fader or knob can have multiple parameters that it controls. So you can add additional mappings and have it do a few different things. So when you click the shimmer button, it is affecting bus 10, it's affecting bus 1 at the same time. If I click the chorus button, it is bypassing this part of the plugin, and then it's also changing the gain structure as well. So you can do multiple things per button or per volume fader. And that's something I learned from deconstructing some of the paid templates. It gives you a lot of flexible control, even if you're limited, quote unquote, to the hardware that you have, where a single button can do a lot of different things. And so there, your personal preference can really come into play. So I hope this high-level overview has really helped see what's possible in MainStage, that my ideas and things that I've used you can use and inspire yourself as well through your own setups. Definitely hit me up in the comments to ask questions or share your own thoughts. If watching this was worth your time, I'd greatly appreciate it if you download the template, contribute whatever you feel like it's worth. You'll see that link below. And definitely enjoy this process. It's been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it myself. And hopefully it makes your production and your keyboarding and whatever you do for music that much more enjoyable. Take care. God bless.